Few people are totally altruistic or total swindlers. In a bad world, most people are bad, and the opposite is true in a good world. Of course, there are inevitably some individuals who, no matter how bad the world gets, hold on to their morals, and others who, no matter how good their lives are, still act like assholes. But they are the exception. Most people fall in line with what the majority are doing, and are given license by what the majority do. They keep their heads down and do what they can to survive. That's how our species survived. If it was ingrained in every individual that we stick to our guns though everything around us is falling apart, we would have gone extinct long ago. Sometimes the unscrupulous is necessary. Knowing this, I'd like to make a non-altruistic argument for why, in dark times, we should help one another out. The automatic thought when things are bad is to look out for number one. When you look at shows dealing with realpolitik, the first person to go is usually somebody self-righteous like Ned Stark. We are living in dark times right now. We are on the verge of a fascist takeover, and a lot of people stick their heads in the sand or run for cover. Some folks decide to fight back against seemingly insurmountable odds. Others capitulate to the growing forces arrayed. But a fascist takeover benefits few, not even the fascist a lot of the time. As Jesus said, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Others have said very truthfully there is no honor among thieves. Often the first people killed, for example, in the Night of Long Knives, when Hitler came to power, were his former comrades. So I don't think capitulating will save you. Or, as Audre Lorde said, silence will not save you. So how do we stop fascism? Fascism is a big monstrosity with a lot of money and power. Fascism is always well funded because the enemies of the rich and the fascist align. The fascist hates marginalized groups, and marginalized groups are almost always among the working class. And the rich stay in power through division of the working class. So funding fascism is a common sense move on their part. I've already said fascists' great weakness is their stupidity, but another weakness is their division. As Jason Stanley said, fascism is about power, and I acknowledge that is true for a good many of them. Some are, though, I think, ideologues. But a lot of them are in it for power. So I've been wondering, what's the weakness of the powerful? Well, one major weakness from power-hungry individuals is that they can never work with like-minded individuals because they will tear and claw to be king of the mountain. A power-hungry individual will never be satisfied with second place. Fascism is a centaur. The brains of it are almost always some power-hungry, calculating Moriarty like Stalin, Hoover, or Hitler. And then down at the bottom is the gullible and the fearful individuals they either control or manipulate. Fascism, seen in this light, is almost like an abusive relationship. It is an abusive relationship. The fascist rules through fear, which gives them an iron grip, but it also means they work with very weak people. The individuals they work with are inevitably stupid or cowardly. Anytime somebody has absolute control, it's because they control for both of these reasons, or one of these reasons. If that dictator wants to win or retain power, he must make sure he wields his pawns intelligently. Fighting a fascist, therefore, is a bit like playing a game of chess with a man whose pieces are all pawns. He might have a giant trunk of pawns, but they are all pawns. For the leftists, we have much stronger, but much fewer pieces as a result of our poverty. As a leftist, I don't need to constantly worry about how stupid or scared my allies are. In fact, so long as I'm genuine, I hope they are genuine, they are either very intelligent and brave. The only thing the leftists like myself should worry about is authenticity. So while the fascist is purging all his side of powerful pieces so that all he has to control are somebody that's very weak, somebody like myself is trying to do this exact opposite. I'm trying to get rid of anybody who is using the movement for their own ends. The leftist believes the tide raises all ships, and about equity, and while the fascist is looking for slaves. Fascism is a type of feudalism. In fact, I'm struggling to discover what the difference is. But of course, let me get back to my main point. Few are entirely altruistic. I think it would be obtuse of me to say that most people don't aspire or have ambitions, even if they also have some sympathy for the cause. If you're a union leader, a politician, or a pundit, you probably have at least some small desire of seeing yourself go somewhere, making a bigger career out of what you do. It can be very easy, therefore, to view other leftists as competition. And yet there is a logic in helping others, and how that can come back to you. The tide raises all ships. We are facing the same enemy, and it's important not to lose sight of that fact. If you are having trouble advancing as a politician, pundit, or union leader, you might be tempted to being more conservative and not helping other leftists. But why you are having trouble is not because of them. It's because of the wealthy and the bigoted who don't want you to succeed. This seems obvious, and maybe it is, but it is a worry I have that jealousy will bring down the movement. It did for Malcolm X, who, in all other things, was so analytic and observant, but was unable to see a man like Elijah had been corrupted by power. At least until it was too late. We on the left must be like wolves after a buffalo. If we fight amongst each other, we lose. We also lose if we allow a power-hungry person like Stalin to take control of the movement. Therefore, if we wish to win, our test of other members should come down to testing their sincerity. You can always make a sincere person smarter. You can't make a greedy person not greedy. And if you're feeling ambitious, fight that, or at least vent it. By not seeing your fellow members as obstacles, but rather seeing the rich and powerful as obstacles. When the buffalo falls, we will all have plenty. But if we act like a horde of rats, we're not going to accomplish much, even for ourselves. And here's another way to think about the cycle. Activists get beaten up by police, so you need legislatures who can implement policy to rein the police in. But for the legislatures to get elected, they need activists to campaign for them. There's also a third aspect, which is resources. An army marches on its stomach, and this is no less true for social movements. You can't strike if you are starving. It's this aspect of our society that causes us to march and strike in the first place. Therefore, unions and boycotts are how we deprive the enemy of their resources and get better payment to fight more effectively in the future.